if I can figure out. Let's see. There we go. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. That was new for me, having a countdown at the beginning. I've not done that before. I've wanted to do that and didn't realize until just a few weeks ago, hey, there's one stuck right on the side. I don't even need to find anything special. So got that tried something new today. Okay, first I need to make an announcement, and that is that Ethan Michael is not coming. And I'm really disappointed because one of the reasons that I moved my show from Tuesdays to Wednesdays was so that I wouldn't be clashing with Ethan. And I've never had Ethan on the show, and I wanted to have him. And then once he said that he was willing to come on the show, we had a hard time trying to figure out what we were going to talk about. And then I thought, hey, you're the friendly atheist. Let's talk about friendly atheism. And so Ethan was really the whole reason for the topic. And then, of course, I wanted someone else. And I got, of all people, the famous Cynthia McDonald. Because Cynthia was on with Paula Gia this last week. And so Cynthia is now famous.
No. Not famous. Only in my mind.
Hey, to me, if you got to do a show with Paula Gia, if Paula Gia invited you for a collab, you have made it.
Oh wow. It was funny. I was just going through like the comments from that video, and first off, I was just like shocked in awe how many views that video got so quickly. That's like never happened ever on anything I ever done. So wow. But what made me feel like I have arrived, not because this video got a lot of views, what made me feel like that I have arrived is that video ended up getting a comment from the none other, way more famouser than I, G-Man.
Okay.
And I said, hey, this is a first for me. I've never been on a video that actually got a comment from G-Man ever. And he said, it's the first time for me too. So there you go.
Okay. Very good. A couple of firsts with that.
Yes, now I have arrived because G-Man commented on the video that I was in. I feel accomplished.
Well, the thing that gave me a boost to, it took me from about 600 subscribers to about 1,200. I mean, I doubled in like 1 week. Was I asked Vice Rhino to do a collab with me, and I wanted to do a reaction to a Ray Comfort video, and there was a lot to it. And so what we ended up doing was we did a two-parter, and part 1 was on my channel and part 2 was on his channel. And yeah, that is the only video that I have out there that has over 2,000 views. But that's because Vice Rhino did half of the video with me.
Oh, well, shout out to Vice Rhino for doing that. Good channel. You guys check it out.
So anyway, to finish the announcement, yes, at the last minute, Ethan Michael told me that he could not make it. He's had a family emergency, and he has had to cancel all of his shows for this week. So I don't know what the family emergency is, but please keep Ethan Michael in your thoughts because he's got some kind of family emergency going on. But he did say that he would come back and do another show another day. So I am looking forward to having him back.
Indeed.
So it does feel a little strange to talk about friendly atheism without the friendly atheist. But the reason that one of the reasons why I wanted to do this topic was I've seen a lot of infighting in the atheist community. And
Mm.
a lot of people that, I don't get along with this person, I don't get along with that person. And it's not unique to atheism. Every group has this problem.
Yeah.
But I do think that we tend to be a little bit more vicious with each other at times.
Mm.
And I think we can all benefit from learning how to have conversations and disagree with each other without losing friendships over it. What are your thoughts, Cynthia?
Um, Thank you for bringing that up. You are very correct in saying that all groups who kind of form will have like disagreements to the point where, friendships could be lost, feelings can get hurt, depending on, if they have disagreements about certain topics or even how one proceeds with their life. And I've even seen it like a lot in the activism space that I occupy, because I have like my toes in different areas, and I've seen that happen, with people who I used to work with, and no longer doing so for different reasons. And a lot of it is because of these misunderstandings, or sometimes not all the time, but sometimes people may, present themselves one way but have ulterior motives.
Mm-hmm.
And when you find that out, it becomes like disappointing, and then you have to ask yourself, do I really want to be associated with this person if this is the type of, character that they're presenting? And I've seen that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the first portion of what you were discussing about disagreements, and finding common ground, i I try to do that as best as possible with any person, that even if we may be on a different side of the aisle per se, like if I like, even if I'm like having like a conversation with a believer, and I make it very known, I don't know many people who don't know that I'm not a believer. but 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 even if we happen to talk about religion and my position versus theirs, I still feel that we should be able to have that discussion without, getting nasty,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and because like I think that civil discourse is important, because the person that you are having the discourse with may bring up points that you haven't thought about, or you may learn from them in some shape, way, or form,
Mm-hmm.
or you might put something on their mind that they go back and think about. So I feel that these could be like, learning experiences on both sides. Hey Maya, hey everybody in the chat, how y'all doing? So so I think that, but I think that, and you may, tell me if you agree or disagree with this, but I don't know. Like sometimes I just think that like human beings have like a default button of I'm about to fight you regardless, in some in some shape, way, or form. If especially like if they are hell bent on seeing their point of view only and not even trying to entertain anything that you say.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that's unfortunate, because I don't necessarily think that anybody can go further if that's kind of, if they just are always committed to just digging their heels into their point of view.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's one thing that I'm starting to learn about having conversations with theists. Is I'm so used to, okay, this is my position. I need to nail home my position. But one of the things that I'm starting to learn is just what you were talking about, that it's better to start to try to find some common ground, because there's always going to be something that you agree on,
Right.
and then work from the points that you agree on to the points that you disagree on.
Hmm. Indeed. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that we're going to agree a lot on this stream. You know, that's important because if we I think that one of the things that's often thought about atheists, especially like, people who are very vocal about their, non-belief, is that people who may be familiar, and if they're believers, will automatically default that we're angry and can't, and no one
Mhm.
can talk with us. I remember a few months ago, in August, actually, I was talking to a friend of mine who, I was telling her that, oh, I'm helping to produce this fundraiser. It was for the fundraiser for the ACA,
Mhm.
and and then she said, "Oh, what's the ACA?" And I told her what it was, and then she's like, "You're an atheist?" I was like, "Yeah." And then she said, and then she said, "Wait a minute, you're not angry." I'm like, no, I get angry about things, but
Right, right.
but I mean, but generally, no, I'm not an angry person. And then she said, well, that's kind of like the character that like some people may pick up, especially if they look at some of like the call-in shows, like the legacy call-in shows, and they, see like people getting cussed out and all this other stuff, and then like automatically, oh, dang, oh, these atheists are so angry. And I'm like, well, so here's the thing. And and I think about it as like, let's just compare it to like a relationship. Say you're in a relationship with a person, and you all are very serious. You're committed. Now, how commitment will be different from one relationship to another, but just say for instance that you both decide that you're just going to be with that particular person, you guys are committed to each other, and that you and this person have decided to have a monogamous relationship, not a polyamorous one, right? So, and then this is your thought that, you thought that this person was on the same page as you. Next thing you know, you find out that this person that you were in relationship is cheating on you, and they have been doing it for quite some time. And then when you find that out, and you know that you've been like faithful, and you have turned down other dates with people, and all this stuff, and you've pretty much shifted your entire life for this person, but they didn't, and you thought that they did the same thing for you, but they didn't,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
that will definitely cause like, some type of anger, maybe some vitriol. Maybe you end up on an episode of Snapped. I don't know. But but it's this whole notion of being sold out or believing that this person is what they were, but then finding out that you've been lied to, you know?
mhm,
And I think that that's a notion that a lot of us who have practiced like some form of theism, especially like, I know that you were a Christian, I was a Christian for a very long time. And, both of you and I from our conversations in the past were very, steadfast about, our belief until we found out, you know, things are not exactly the way that they seem to be. I feel
mhm.
like, this thing is not like the other, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And so like when you and I know that like with the Christian worldview, it's very much so about committing to God,
Mhm,
committing your life, and rearranging everything about yourself, denying yourself for things in order for you to please him.
mhm, mhm,
But then you start to utilize like some critical thinking, and and then like you start to read the Bible and realize that it's so full of contradictions and fantastical happenings, and just about none of, especially the fantastic parts, none of it can be substantiated. So then, unless you pull out Daper Copperfield and figure out the magic trick. So that is kind of like what can lead a person to anger. But at the same time, I'm just of the mind that it's not healthy to stay there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, there's been a few comments that I'd really like to talk about, and there's been a couple of questions. So I'm gonna, and that's why I haven't put anything up from the chat in a bit. But I do want to acknowledge everyone who's in the chat. Thank you so much for coming, everyone, and thank you so much for the comments that you're bringing. Okay, the first one is from Dave M, who says, I like having fruitful discussions, but my tolerance for certain things is very low. Anti-vax. I am the first to admit it, though. That is why we need you ladies.
Oh, Dave, you ain't said nothing but a word. I've also had these conversations with anti-vaxxers, or even people who are distrustful of the COVID-19 vaccines, and it is frustrating. It is
It
frustrating,
is.
because like depending on like where in the conversation that we're going with that, um you can try to do your best to come up with the best evidence of efficient efficacy, and comparing who's in the hospital versus who is not, and most people who are getting sick and dying from COVID-19 are people who happen to be not vaccinated. And people are like, well, there are people who are vaccinated, they're still getting infected. I said, yes, that's true. But if you look at the people who are getting infected to hospitalization and dying that are vaccinated versus the ones who are not, you see that there is there's a very big number in between one group to another,
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like, people lie. My dog may lie on the ground. She does it every day, but numbers usually don't.
Yeah, the one that I saw today that really upset me was Ben Carson.
Oh, gosh.
Because Ben Carson is a doctor. He should know better.
Right.
And for him to come out and say that giving children a vaccine is experimenting on children. Yeah, we did experiment on children, but the experiments are over. That's why the vaccines got approved. I mean, how can you be a doctor and not know this?
That's the really frustrating parts, is like people who happen to occupy certain portions of the society that you would think would know better, or
Mm-hmm.
would not try to make these fallacious arguments, and coming and then making them in the stance of authority, and what they're doing is really confusing people, or they're like purposely steering them away for something that could possibly save their life. I shout out to Jenna Mew. We did a video a couple of months ago. Wasn't it about a month ago, about this very topic, and we were doing a response video to a PhD molecular and cellular biologist, who testified against the mandates in her home state, and it was so. And I was just like tripping, because like, even if you didn't have like a cursory knowledge about how these vaccines work, or even privy to some of the numbers when it comes to who is getting sick and dying, or or even paying attention, like, you could really get to the point that you're convinced by this woman's argument and just say, well, she's a molecular and cellular biologist.
Yep.
She should know. Therefore, I'm not going to do it. And how you going to refute that? but I mean, but I said, but to listen to what she's saying and then compare it to the actual data and the news stories concerning the things that she say, and they don't add up.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
and that is so, frustrating, especially like when, other people like will bring this up and then like you refute what is said. And I said, well, no, actually, this is what the data says. No, actually,
Mm-hmm.
this is what the science says. No, actually, this is what, the efficacy and all these other things. And either they will listen or they will shout you down. And and then we have this whole digging my heels in this argument and not
Mm-hmm.
moving because I'm committed to it, even if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very frustrating thing, and it does like make you go, I'm about 2 seconds from just really just wailing on you, but then you have to like, do everything in your power to try to keep control, because again, you don't want to be labeled the angry atheist.
And that leads us right into the next comment that I thought was really amusing. Purple Rhymes with Orange says, I never had an angry atheist phase, but I got all that out during my pissed off pagan phase.
Shout out to Purple.
And Maya says, many people are quick to anger when others say things that are contrary to their beliefs, especially when it takes them off guard. Easy to be angry if that's the introduction. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have found that in my own conversations, I tend to mirror the person I'm talking to.
Hmm.
If they are polite and cordial with me, I'll be polite and cordial with them. But when they turn aggressive, I can turn aggressive too.
Yeah. I think I'm the same way. I happen to, as my niece call it, she's a millennial. I match your energy,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so like, if I feel like I am having a conversation with someone who's an honest interlocutor, then I feel that we can have a fruitful conversation, even if we don't agree. But if I get the impression that I'm having a conversation with a dishonest interlocutor, then things happen to shift.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember I was talking to a friend of mine about um, transgender issues.
Mm-hmm.
And, at first it started cool, but then I got really upset because I knew that a lot of the things that my friend was saying was just absolutely an argument from ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
also, bringing up some things that were antidotal.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is that these are the very things that um my friend will argue against or can recognize in other people depending on what the topic is, but they ended up doing it their very selves. And that was the frustrating part for me. And I was just like, you know what? I think we just need to end this conversation before we stop being friends. How about
Yeah.
that?
That's something I am not good at,
Mm,
is ending a conversation when it needs to. I got into a conversation recently with someone who duped me into the conversation.
mm,
And I'm not good at thinking in the moment. And so what I just said, I just made up an excuse and said, I have to go. And
mm,
so I just left. And after I left, then I started thinking about all the things that I should have said, which is I really should have said, you are an absolute asshole for tricking me into this, you know? And I did email him about it,
mm-hmm,
but yeah, that does not come naturally to me.
mm. Just like just telling somebody, you know what, you're an asshole.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's hard for me.
yeah. I don't automatically default to you are an asshole. I
Mhm.
give you a moment to prove your assholeness before I call you out on it.
There's probably comments down there that I need to get to, but I'm holding at the spot with that has the next one. So if you've said something on topic and I don't get to it till later, I'm sorry, but there's more comments here than well,
Let's
I'm
just
going
bring
through
on the
one at a time
comments.
so I don't lose them.
Let's
It's
bring them
real
on.
easy to lose them if you don't. So, okay, we had a question from Steve McRae's manager. Good evening, ladies. Are monogamous relationships natural?
Ooh, that's a good
I do
question.
not know. I am a bad person to ask that question because I have only had one relationship.
Oh, wow.
My husband and I will be will celebrate our 39th anniversary next month.
Congratulations.
We were both of the purity culture. Well, not
Mm.
not total purity culture because the real purity culture came later, but we were definitely both taught abstinence until marriage. And so in my lifetime, I have only had one sex partner. Um, so I'm the wrong person to ask about that.
Yeah. Well, I cannot say that. Um, I cannot say that. Even though, like, I will say that that's a good question. And this is my observation. I would say generally no. Um, and the only reason why I say that is because, like, other primates have exhibited behavior where they have multiple partners. It's not many animals that will just stay with just one partner for their entire life. I think it's very it's I don't know the exact number. I know that there are some species that happen to just, like, pick a partner, and they're with that partner for as long as they're on this earth. But that's not normally the case, for our particular, group of primates. Like, and I know that most people are who are monogamous, as are okay. Let me not straw man. This is what I've noticed, that most of the people that I came up with when I was a Christian tried to hold on to this idea of abstinence before marriage, but some made it, but a lot didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And and I mean, for the most part, attraction is natural. Even though that I know that there are, people who are asexual, but that's not like the majority of the populace. Yeah. That's still not the majority of the populace of human beings. Like, most of us are not asexual. And there are feelings, and there are thoughts, and there are attractiveness, to different people or what have you. And that's natural for you to express it. And like, folk happen, if they can find a person that they can just be with, that one, and that's it, more power to you. But generally, that's I don't really see that always, being a practice in just like every human being just to be with one person. I think that we're more prevalent to have multiple partners, even if it's like you've been with one partner for a while, and then happen to move on to someone else. I mean, like, I know that my partner and we've been together for about 3 years now. Yeah, been together, and we are in just a single relationship with one another. But I mean, he's been with other people before me, and I have been with other people before him. So, and when we found each other, we was like, "Hey, I like you." Sometimes, and I mean, and that's the conversation that we had with one another. So we are just with committed to one another. But you know, most humans don't really do that.
Maya brought up a good point with regards to just talking with theists. Now, it's actually directed at Orange, but she has a really good point here. Um, oops, now I'm getting an echo. I don't know if it's you or me. I'm going to read her question, then I'm going to go grab a headphone real quick.
Okay.
Says, I understood that I wasn't being lied to. People really believed they were saving my soul.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, I'm going to talk while Granny is grabbing headphones, and I think that I'm going to do the same thing just in case. But yeah, I'm going to read that again. Having been a parent when deconverted, I understood that I wasn't being lied to. People really believed that they were saving my soul. Yeah, I remember having a when I became Buddhist, and I was like agnostic Buddhist. And hey, Jenny.
Hi,
And
Jenny.
and then when I
Hi,
was
hi.
hi, and and I was transitioning. I wasn't quite, fully, on the atheist side of things. But I remember putting up an Instagram post of me chanting, and a person that I used to be in church with told me, "Well, what about Jesus?" And I'm like, what about him? you know?
You left him.
And I think that and she was really, and I think that like it was a couple of other, posts that I put up that she was like, well, remember, sis, Jesus is always, Jesus is the way. And I'm like, well, if that works for you, cool. Jesus don't work for me no more. You know? And I know that she and I really believe, because of the interactions that we had in the past, that she was being very sincere, but she was also being severely annoying. And but at the same time, like, that's the place that she was coming from. She was, she sincerely thought that she was trying to do something helpful to me. But okay, now I'm about to put on headphones just in case.
Okay. And I'm going to say hello to Jenny. Jenny, thank you for coming.
Hi, good evening. I saw that Ethan didn't make it and you
Yeah.
extended out, so I thought I'd jump in and see if there's anything I can do to help. But you've got one of the best brains on the planet here,
Oh,
so
yes,
I don't
I
know how much I
definitely
can
do.
contribute.
Well, the topic is simply friendly atheism. We're basically talking about how to have friendly conversations, and at the moment, I'm answering some of the comments and questions from the chat, and we've actually kind of traveled a little bit to different to different topics, but generally we've stuck with how that relates to how we could interact with one another and how we could disagree with one another but still remain on friendly terms.
You you
Cyn-
you mean with like your friends or with Republicans?
well, actually, everyone, because we did talk about, how do you deal with anti-vaxxers?
Mm,
That some people, just cannot be reasoned with. But like with theists, generally they can, even when they're being completely unreasonable, most of them are not, what's the word I'm looking for? Not disagreeable, but most of them are not, in your face. Some of them are. Some of them get very aggressive,
yeah.
but most of them are not.
Right. I think that I believe that most people that you would have like a interaction with, even if you kind of coming from a different side, if if you if you come with like sincerity about some things, like, more than likely they will match the energy that you give off. Um, Sometimes, like, if I end up devolving into an argument, I have to kind of step back from it and just kind of re-examine things to see, like, what did I do to contribute to this? Because, like, was it something that that person said or did to me that made me go off the rails, or was it something that I said to them that made it escalate into what it made it escalate to? So I think that, you know those are some of the things that perhaps, like, a lot of us should think about when we are, about to engage into like conversations with other people, especially when you know that there's going to be a point in the discussion that you guys are going to disagree. you know.
And Jenny, I need to ask, how are you feeling?
I just finished a 1,000-part tweet about that. um,
I can go back and read it later if you'd rather not repeat it.
oh no, I definitely do not want to read it right now. It really is quite long, but it's a timeline of the last several days, and you can look at my name that I've given myself tonight. The monoclonal antibodies rock. Rock is not the right word. Miracle is the right word. I feel so much better. I almost feel like my normal self right now.
Oh, nice.
I know I'm still sick. I got, body aches and my head still hurts and my nose is stuffy and, cough here and there and these sorts of things. But I, honest to God, thought I was going to die yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It's okay. It was that bad. I couldn't even think. I was getting so foggy in the brain and I hurt so much I wanted to die. And it just, everything just kept, each day, everything was worse. Each day, I could feel myself getting worse during the day. That I'm going, holy fuck, I'm riding down a hill here and I can't stop it. And then they did this infusion of these antibodies, and that was 28 hours ago. And I pretty much feel like I could go outside and I couldn't run a mile because I couldn't before either. But I feel very, very good compared to what I was. I know, like I said, I know I'm still sick. I'm still certainly going to adhere to quarantine because I need to and all that. But holy fuck, if you get it, just go, and you've been vaxxed already. Go for the monoclonal antibody infusion is the fancy word. It'll save your goddamn life.
Well,
and back when Trump said, "Oh, I had COVID," and he was back up a couple of days later, I thought it was a bunch of horse shit. It's not. it's not. It's not. And when I say it's a miracle drug, I don't mean, in a religious sense.
Right.
It's just
no, we get it.
Amazing. It's shocking. It's shocking.
Yeah.
So, I'm okay.
Well, shout out to you, Jenny. I'm so glad that you're feeling a lot better. I'm glad that you were able to get treatment. I know that that's scary. I mean, like, I haven't been infected, but I was taking care of my mom who was, and it was touch and go for a while. But I'm not really sure. I don't. When we were discussing like her treatment, she didn't get like the antibody infusion. She just got like a cocktail of I know remdesivir as an antiviral drug, and also some darn it, what do you call it? Not antibodies, the antibacterial. What's the word I'm looking for? People, help me out.
I don't know.
Antiviral?
Not the antiviral, but like like penicillin.
Antibody or
Antibiotic.
Antibiotic. I should know this. But I would have such a brain fart. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Yes, doctor. I'm going to make myself a cocktail after this. But yeah, so she was getting like those for a week, and she was also on oxygen because she ended up developing a pneumonia. And but after a while she got better. So and we all say that because she was vaccinated, that really saved her life. If she wasn't, especially with all her comorbidities, she wouldn't have made it. So I feel you, Jenny. I'm just
that's what was really scary, and I jumped at the moment I could get the vaccines. I jumped for them because I understand vaccines and all that stuff, and I knew they were going to be fine. Because my cardiologist and lung guy said that if I get it, I'm going to die. Plain flat out said, he said, get that vaccine as soon as it's available.
Yep. So we're saying like anybody who has comorbidities, especially like, the comorbidities that make one more prevalent to adverse reactions to infections, like heart issues and cancers and asthmatics and things of that nature. Like, yeah, you need to get vaccinated for real.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're out there and you're listening, don't hesitate. Just go get it.
Yeah. And
The
don't argue.
naysayers are wrong.
And don't argue about it. We have data.
Yeah, and fucking Aaron Rodgers, God damn it, risked the whole goddamn team's season, and now he's got COVID and he's going to be out. Goddamn fucking jocks. They're so stupid.
Oh gosh. I
totally do not get that. I do not get that.
Wow. So he played the whole season unvaxxed in football.
Yeah.
So I don't think that football actually has like the same mandates as the NBA, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they do.
They do?
If you are unvaxxed, there's all kinds of rules.
You have to have a
about it,
COVID
and-
test every week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
something
And if
like
you're
that.
positive, you can't play.
Right. Okay. I think that's the same. Isn't that the same? Or no, with NBA? I think the NBA is like you got to get vaccinated. Like, is there like a zero
I
tolerance
think they might be a
policy?
little stricter,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not sure. I don't need to know their rules, so I don't memorize them or anything.
Oh,
But it would make sense that basketball would be tougher because they're actually in physical contact with each other.
right.
You
Right.
know, football's got all these pads and shit that's between them and the next guy's lips.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. So there's some, some barriers, but not a lot. But I'm from Chicago, so I have to say fuck Green Bay. It's like in my Chicagoan contract. I
understand.
It's kind of like in the writ of residency in Chicago.
Just remember, no matter what you say about that, the Bears still suck.
Yes, they do, but it doesn't matter. We still have to hate Green Bay.
You're not going to like my video this week, Cynthia.
It doesn't matter. We still have to hate Green Bay. Our Bears suck. We know it. We know.
I've already finished my produced video this week because I'm trying to get a little bit ahead. I'm going to take a week off during Thanksgiving week while I'm gone. So, tomorrow I'm already going to be starting on next week's video. But the one that I produced, I just released it today. There's one person in the chat that's already seen it because it got released to my patrons today. But the Packers are a major part of the video that I just released.
Oh, interesting.
Wow. Okay, I can't wait to see this one.
It's about the pizza god.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna be like inside the camera. Fuck Green Bay. Fuck Green Bay. Fuck Green Bay.
I talk about pizza in the tweet I just posted too.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Twice.
Oh, wow.
And I tell the story about when I was getting the infusion that the doctor's in there with me doing the infusion and watching the numbers and all that kind of stuff, and I asked her, I said, is this going to help me with my ivermectin? and she could tell I was being sarcastic, and so we got a good laugh out of that. And I said, well, good, that's okay, because I take the dog dewormer.
The dog dewormer. Every time I think of ivermectin, I think of student Dr. Ben. Shout out to student Dr. Ben. Because like at first I didn't know until like Ben brought it up that people about this whole thing about ivermectin, and I was like, what? And then I looked up like what's really going on, and then found out about the websites that people are starting so that they can find a doctor that will actually prescribe them ivermectin for COVID. I'm like, this is insane.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Right, exactly, right. I mean, like, to be honest, like, I think that's another reason why I kind of stopped watching football, only because I have a hard time watching any sport where people can, suffer head injuries. You know, I just think of like Walter Payton and how like his life is completely not Walter Payton.
Peyton
Uh,
Manning.
no, not Peyton Manning. I'm thinking when the Bears were good, and that was
Oh, okay.
1985
Yeah.
when Jim McMahon, Jim
Okay.
McMahon, are
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
the quarterback from when we actually won the Super Bowl when the Bears was actually the shit. They had a song and everything, so you knew they was the shit. But he it was very vocal about his experience concerning like suffering all those concussions and like how it's like even changed his personality and made him like basically like mental like have behavioral health disabilities because of this and how people just wanted to ignore it and say, oh, this is not a problem in professional sports, but obviously it is. So I don't know, like, and that boxing and MMA fighting I can't watch. I refuse
yeah,
to watch only because like I'm like, who knows that any person can like step into like on a field or in a ring and that could be their life, or their life can completely change for the worse forever. And I mean
yeah.
I can't get with
I
that.
see. I guess I separate football from the MMA and boxing. My brain is still real foggy here.
Mm,
Um, because the football is not. You're not. It's not. Well, although in the hearts of some, it is. But the intent of the game, the design of the game, is not to hurt each other.
sure.
Whereas boxing and that fighting, it is. I mean, the whole point to that is you beat the other person up till they can't move anymore.
Hmm.
And that just bothers the fuck out of me, and I can never ever watch that kind of sport. So I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I just get, I guess like, I my whole thing more so was just like the establishment like really ignoring the needs of the players when it came to safety equipment and how it really wasn't functioning properly for the the players, for so many people become getting concussions. uh yes, I agree. Seeking treatment is better than COVID denial. So
Hmm.
eh, but let it not be ivermectin.
Right.
I know some horse people, and I was in touch with them when this whole ivermectin thing happened, and they couldn't believe that this was going on. It was just shocking. I guess the reason it became an issue is that there is a form of ivermectin that they actually give to people, but it's for the intent of deworming, not virus. And there's lots of things that can affect a virus. Enough aspirin, you'll kill a virus, but you'll wreck the body in a whole bunch of other ways.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
people are so easy to manipulate nowadays.
Yeah. It was,
And
remember, it was like I hydrochloroquine at the beginning,
right.
of this whole thing. And it's great for treating lupus. It's not
Hmm.
COVID.
Hmm. And speaking of, being manipulative, there's a good discussion going on between Taram and Maya, and I'm not going to bring up all the comments, but I kind of wanted to jump in on it. Taram brought up some good points about dealing with theists, one of which was is sometimes when I bring up a very minor point, they jump all over it, thinking that's all I've got.
Mm,
And so now I find that I really need to lead with the major points. And I've made that mistake in a very personal conversation with a family member. It had nothing to do with theism,
hmm.
but this family member was accusing me of a laundry list of faults, one of which he claimed that I had done when I wasn't even at his house. He said, when you were here for Christmas. And so rather than going through point by point, I just said, I wasn't there at Christmas that year. And
Mm,
he said, well, you would pick out this minor detail. I said, well, I picked out the minor detail because it's easier to address things one point at a time. And I ended that conversation did not end well. And instead of even addressing all of the major stuff that was in there, I ended up cutting it off completely because he threatened me. And I said,
Mm.
that's it. You're going to threaten me. That's it. Your conversation is over. But I get where Taram is coming from in saying that it is difficult. Sometimes you take an approach with someone and it totally doesn't work.
Mhm.
Whereas that same approach might work with somebody else. And that does make it difficult.
I really like using epistemology when talking to people. I know I'm not that great at it, but I really like the approach. Just like having a discussion back and forth, asking questions, and really getting like the person to try to think about, some of the things that they're saying, and also, some of the things that they believe, and really trying to ask questions to get them to examine their beliefs. Um, and the cool thing about epistemology, or like I see, or street epistemology, is that you can use that approach for just about anything. Um, I remember I was, but sometimes like you do have to kind of know when to say, okay, this is not going anywhere. I'm just going to stop. I had a couple of discourses where that ended up taking place. I
Could,
had, I'm sorry.
I was just, no, I want to ask something, but go on. Continue. I don't want to disrupt.
Oh no, I was just gonna just mention this real quick. Like one, I remember I was talking to one was about I was having a discourse with a person about slavery reparations, because I talk about that a lot. And they were we were going back and forth, and I was bringing up different points concerning like data and history and how they're correlated. And then I was like, you know what? This approach, even if I'm like bringing up like valid points that are factual and can be verified, this is not going anywhere. And I think the reason why this is not going anywhere, because there is a knowledge gap between myself and my interlocutor. So, and so I asked them one question, and I said, let me ask you this. Are you familiar with Jim Crow? And the answer was, I don't know who that is.
Oh, oh.
Yeah.
Well, it's this guy who used to make whiskey, I guess. I don't know.
I was like, okay, so this conversation's over. I'm going to suggest, and I sent them a couple of links. I said, you know what? When you find out who Jim Crow is, find me. My DMs are always open.
Well,
Peace.
that's like the manufactured lie that's going around now with Republicans and seeking votes, is how they're trying to frighten parents into thinking that critical race theory is being taught to your children.
Yes.
Critical race theory isn't being taught to anybody anywhere. It's a concept. It's not a lesson plan.
And it's taught on the on the JD level. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
taught.
yeah, exactly,
Did
and
you
completely true.
did you? I saw this video. I'm so sorry to cut you off, but it was so. It was funny, but it was sad, but it was funny, but it was sad at the same time.
I'm betting I know which one you're talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Virginia voter.
The guy standing there by a car. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And when he asked her, like, what's the most important thing that that you're concerned about in this race, and he said, well, I'm concerned about what's being taught to our children, and one thing that I don't want to have is critical race theory. And then so like the person asked him, do you know what critical race theory is? And he's like, well, I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm just saying that I just don't. And then he said, no, but seriously, do you know what it is? And he said, well, I can't really describe all of it right now, but I know I don't like it. I'm like, how do you know you don't like something if you don't know what it is?
Yeah. Cynthia, did you see this comment?
Is Jim Crow the brother of Bob Ray? Yeah, they both live in a van down by the river.
Cynthia, I wanted to ask a question before we get too far away from it. Here, take me to school, because I might sound like I'm smart, but I'm not. What is epistemology?
What is epistemology? It's just based. It's a philosophy that is based around, at the most part, just asking questions, or in having a conversation, or just asking questions so that you can get like better answers. It's Yeah, that's like the most like basic way that I can that I can explain it. But the person to watch to get like a really better understanding, and like the technique of epistemology, or specifically street epistemology,
Hmm.
is Anthony Magnabosco. Like he has been doing this interaction with different people, where he will go to college campuses, or he'll like set up in other places, and just like ask a person, can I have 5 minutes of your time? I would like to ask you some questions. And he just explains the format, and it's mostly like people that he engages with are theists, and so he basically asks questions around their belief. And it's never it's and he does also preface to say that, um I if you at any time that you feel uncomfortable with my question, or feel uncomfortable with this interaction, we could stop at any time.
Hmm.
So he's really
Oh,
big
yeah, I've
on,
seen him. Yeah, he's
yeah,
good.
he's
He's
very
good.
good. And
I've
because
heard
like,
that name.
yeah, and just look him up, Anthony Magnabosco. He has tons and tons of videos. He's been doing this for a very long time, and I know him. Like last time, when we did the Tang Better virtual conference, I watched his talk, and he was saying that him and his team are currently working on a curriculum, so that they can teach street epistemology in this way to other people who are wanting to learn the technique, so that they can have better conversations, with different people who you may have a difference of opinion with. So
It
yeah,
almost sounds like a therapy technique.
I think so. I think that, and I think that with epistemology itself, I think that another thing is called it's kind of based in what they call the Socratic method, or Socrates.
That's exactly what I was thinking of, because there's a
Hmm.
method in
And somebody else
psychotherapy
in
of
the
the
chat was
Socratic
mentioning that too,
the
Hmm.
that
Socratic
they are very
questioning.
different.
Yeah, yes, epistemology and street epistemology are very, very, very different. Yeah, so you are correct, Maya. Matter of fact, even Anthony said that pairing street and epistemology together may not be the best term, or best terminology, but it kind of stuck. And so like most people are familiar, with this particular approach, instead of just like epistemology in of itself, because like epistemology in of itself can be quite wide, but like the street epistemology is more of the technique of just like asking questions when you're having conversations with people who may have a difference of opinion from you, so that they can possibly engage their critical thinking skills to really start to examine their beliefs to see if they hold water.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I've been using epistemology then for most of my life, especially when I'm talking with religious people, and having that basic argument of, does God exist, or something like that.
mhm,
Because
mhm,
I find the best way to keep myself calm, prevent me from going nuts on these people, because that's what I really like to do,
mhm,
is for me to ask them questions, to make
Mm,
them explain your logic, explain where you're coming from. Don't just give me some nickel words that
right.
give me the
mhm.
definitions here.
Right.
Which brings us to something I wanted to bring up. Taram has asked several questions, and I really would like to give Taram a bit of encouragement, because one of the things that Taram was saying was that he's come up with too many people. Here it is. If I could even get through that cast iron God belief, the plus 99 armor worn by the religious for a second, that would be a start. And I
Mm,
would say that if you had met me 10 years ago, that was me.
yeah.
And Maya is right that it's not a single conversation. It's planting seeds and letting those seeds take place, and just making a very small point of, hey, you've missed how this affects this human being. And when you start realizing, oh, this idea is harmful to this person, and you brought up specifically, you don't see how someone could be a transphobe in this day and age. I'm
Mm.
sorry, not a transphobe, a homophobe. I was a homophobe.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I turned from that was first with Christopher Yuan's book. Now, most people would consider Christopher Yuan's book to still be trans. I keep saying trans. I don't know why I keep saying. Probably because I talk about that issue a lot more than I do about homophobia. But most people would still consider that book to be homophobic,
Mm.
because it's written by a man who's a Bible professor at Moody in your neck of the woods, Cynthia.
Oh yeah, I know where Moody is.
Okay. Okay. He's a Bible professor there, and he's also homosexual. And he wrote a book on his experience of how he grew up in a religious home. He rebelled against his parents and his religion. He became a drug dealer. His dad had been a dentist, and he went to dental school also. Had planned to follow in his dad's footsteps, but when he got caught with drugs, he was kicked out of dental school. He went to prison. And in prison, he found religion and realized that the homosexual lifestyle that he had been practicing was completely against God.
Mm.
But he admits that he is still a homosexual. He did not stop being homosexual just because he found religion. And it was his book that made me realize that a person can be a homosexual and still be God honoring.
Mm.
Because if a Moody Bible professor can do it, anyone can do it. Now, he still preaches abstinence, complete abstinence for the homosexual community, which obviously, I would not agree with anymore. But that was step one. And
Mm-hmm.
once I could see that, and once I had taken that step, then the next step I took was I read a book called Mama's Boy, Preacher's Son, which is written by another man who is also a strong Christian believer, but he's a much more liberal Christian believer. And he is homosexual also. He is the one that started, I can't think of the name of the group now, but it's a group that brings anti-bullying campaigns to schools.
Mm. I know
And
what you're talking about. I can't think of
okay.
the name either.
Um, And when I read his book, I realized, oh, a person can be a believer and be homosexual and be in a homosexual relationship. So that was step two. And so Maya's right. It's little seeds and little steps, and these little cracks eventually become big fractures.
And
Yeah.
is that what your trigger finally was little steps and things like that?
Are you asking me or Cynthia?
Well, both of you, but I was directing it to you to start with.
Okay. Yeah, it really was. There was definitely a moment that broke my faith completely, and that was the realization that the flood never happened. But
Mm.
when I looked at all the little steps that led up to that moment, that moment could not have happened without those other steps occurring first.
Yeah. I would definitely say for me it was just a chipping away at my previous beliefs. Especially, I think that one of the things that kind of got me to re-examine my beliefs is when I realized that my beliefs are no longer giving me comfort like they used to.
Mm, mm,
And I know that like I personally deal with anxiety and depression, and I have for a very long time. And I was taught when I was a theist that that depression specifically is a symptom of being bothered or needing to be delivered from the spirit of heaviness. Uh, and and I remember specifically that I had a pastor, that my pastor's wife at the time taught deliverance, and she would, and the way that she would say it is like, if the Bible doesn't call it a spirit, I don't call it a spirit. But specifically for like depression and anxiety, they would call that the spirit of heaviness. And the Bible says, for the spirit of heaviness, you put on the garment of praise. So I used to think that because I was like a praise leader, whatever, and all this other stuff, that I had the ability to, to use this technique of praising, and that would alleviate my depression. But after a while, that did not work. And I really had to start to examine, well, if that doesn't work, what else doesn't work? If this doesn't move it, what else does? What are some of the other beliefs that I have that don't really hold water? And really, this being like starting to like chip away at some of this beliefs, like, okay, got to put that one away. I got to put that one away, like, because like, even though this is what you believe versus, what's real, they don't match. So, and then after a while, it came to the point where I had to go, oh, wow, I have no good reason to believe any of this stuff. And that was scary because I didn't know what to do with that. I never had a moment that I could remember not believing in God. And now, and no longer not believing in God because I didn't have a good reason to. I was scared on what would happen if I didn't believe. Like, who has me now? Who do I go to? Who can I run to looking fake? Like, I don't know.
That was one of the things that used to irk me in church, even when I was a believer, even when I was a strong believer, and it was typically older men that you would walk in and they tell you, smile, Jesus loves you.
Oh yeah.
If you don't have a smile on your face, something's wrong with you. And
that's what's wrong with me. How about that?
For me, the major fracture, the thing that really broke me away from Christianity. Now, this is the fracture that took me from Christianity to kind of making up my own theology. And then the Noah's Ark thing took me from my own theology to atheism. But the thing that really took me from Christianity was reflecting on the Apostle Paul. And I started thinking about it. Everyone keeps making the argument that God doesn't violate people's free will. But what about the Apostle Paul? God made a personal appearance to him. How is that not a violation of his free will? But even more importantly than that is if God clearly, if he exists, knows exactly what each person, if he's omniscient, needs to know in order to believe. So if God knows what you need and is able to give it to you and demonstrated that ability by giving it to the Apostle Paul, why not give it to everyone?
Right. Why does God pick and choose who he will and will not save? Because I promise if I had a Damascus experience, I would be not on the stream and be saying, "Oh, going to hell."
Yep.
I was raised Lutheran, and I don't believe that a normal tenet of Lutheranism is to believe in a God who's I don't know if the official term active in our lives, who actually is following us moment to moment and does things for us, and you pray to God, I need a new baseball, and you get a new baseball, that kind of God. But I wanted to believe that was true because I heard so many religions that did talk about God in that way. And for me, and we're talking about like the ages between like 12, 13, 14 kind of stuff, which was when I was starting to wake up and realizing that, well, all these people say this happens, but nobody can show me a time when it actually did, except the miracle that they had with some kid who didn't die from a car accident or something, or who drowned or came back. And they always had those kind of stories, but they never had, well, did God get you to pay off your house? And did God help you cut that lawn that you didn't want to do? And it was very juvenile thinking. I admit, but like I said, I was 12, 13, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I saw of the what seemed to be lies to me then, that people would say God is this and God is that, and it just didn't hold water.
Right.
I just lost faith. I said, well, how can any of this be true?
Right.
And what really capped it off was that when I started looking at other religions, that part of it, and realizing that all the religions are saying the same thing, and it's all contradictory, and it's all hypocritical, and it
Yeah.
was just, it was time
Because
to go. And so when I'm in a discussion with somebody about it, this is what will trigger me to start getting angry at them, how that they can blindly say these kinds of things to somebody who's asking questions without seeming to think about the ramifications of this person becoming deluded with these fantasies.
yeah.
Especially if it's a child, to indoctrinate a child that way, I just think
Right.
it's awful. It's unforgivable.
Yeah. I always have said to myself, like, if I know that I'm kind of past the baby making years, but I say, like, if I ended up becoming a mom, even though, like, my mom didn't really harp so much on church, we went to church, and but like it wasn't like in the strictest sense, like if I was like raised, like, let's say, Pentecostal or something like that. um but at the same time, I would want my child to make a decision on how they want to live their life. I would hope that, as a parent, that I can guide them into helping them learn how to make good decisions for themselves, but but at the same time, it's their decision. And especially when it comes to what they want to believe and what they don't want to believe. And I don't want to, and I don't think it's ever a right to force beliefs on anybody. It's not okay.
Oh, doctor. Oh man, that
uh,
was really bad. You've been hanging out with
Gosh,
you've been hanging out with
I wish I had that
kids.
gif with the really crazy looking stick person that said "toom toom."
All right, Cynthia, I've had two people in the chat today remind me that you can sing really well.
Really?
It's in my ACA contract that every time that I appear on the ACA show, either I have to sing or, give my preacher voice, either or say, or now the new one is sing, give preacher voice, or do a Monty Python pun.
Could you just do a couple notes, and I'll fantasize the rest?
Oh wow. Okay. Damn. I okay. Well, we'll just go to one of my favorite karaoke go-tos. I'll just give you one. Give you a couple lines from
Okay.
Michael Jackson's PYT.
Okay.
Hopefully, we don't get copywritten strikes. It's fair use. Okay. Where did you come from, baby? And ooh, won't you take me there? That way won't get, baby. Tenderoni, you got to be. Papa Nature sugar fly with me. Don't you know now is a perfect time? We can dim the lights just to make it right. In the night when the love is here, I give you all that I got. I want to love you. Pretty young thing, don't get to loving to the love and care, and I'll take you there. Yes, I will. Hey,
Oh God, Cynthia.
I just like merged like about 3 verses in one, but it's okay.
That's wonderful. I can't sing a single note, and I wish I could so much. It's just, you're so fortunate to have that voice.
Aw.
Thank you.
I have a great voice for choir. I'm a very good support voice, but I am not a lead voice.
We need those type of voices.
I
Like,
have I have a great
I
voice for lip syncing.
oh, they're all voices are important. All voices matter. Thank you, Maya.
I like to tell people I have a terrible sense of rhythm, and so conductors love me because I watch the conductor like a hawk. Because if I keep to myself, I'll go off beat. So I'm always watching the conductor to be exactly right.
I have a story about a conductor. And it's a tragic story, but I'm going to tell it anyway because it's kind of funny, but it's a little tragic. So when I was in college, I was part of a mixed chorus, and I and our conductor at the time had this big idea that he wanted to do this huge uh multi movement piece called Carmina Burana, if anybody is familiar with it. And so he kind of got us ready for it by the beginning of the semester, teaching us and having us perform Leonard Bernstein's Chichester Psalms. If anybody wants to listen to that, actually, it's quite beautiful. And then at the end of the year, in the spring semester, that's when we learned Carmina Burana. And Carmina Burana is a 27 movement piece with full orchestra, soloists, and full choir. Now, in the past, when we would do like choral works with the orchestra, and if we weren't singing at the time, we had risers that had seats so that we can sit down. But for some reason, the conductor felt that that was too good for us, and we had to stand throughout the entire piece, even when we were not singing. Kind of freak crap is that? And then on the day that we were going to perform it, which was in May, it was hot as hell in that damn concert hall because for some reason, no one decided to turn on the air conditioner.
Oh, jeez.
And so we had a full stage packed with instruments, instrumentalists, soloists, and a full choir. And I was on the top riser. And
Oh, no.
It gets better. Now, we're going through the piece. Around the 18th movement, the conductor starts to look real fuzzy. Kind of like my background here. Like really, really fuzzy. There were lights happening around him, and I don't remember this happening previously. And I was like, oh no, this is not good. If he's looking really fuzzy and I'm seeing lights floating around him, I'm pretty sure that I'm about to faint.
Yep.
Yes, that was me. I was a choir kid dropping like a fly from the riser. And so I remember touching the person in front of me's shoulder and I said, I'm about to faint. And then he tried to tell me, bend your knees. But I heard none of that because about 30 seconds later, all you sudden you heard is thud. And I was on the ground in the middle.
Oh, God. That freaks me out so much. I hate it when people drop unconscious. It can be so dangerous.
Well, let's just say that even though I lost consciousness for a moment, by the time I went thud, I woke back up. And they had to help me out the stage. And then after I was the first one to go. At least about 7 or 8 more people ended up going. One person just walked off the stage. They weren't even done yet. She was like, and you know, and I know that towards the end of the year, that conductor did not get tenure. They weren't even asked to come back because there were certain things that you should have made sure that was in place, like not having your choir faint in the middle of a piece. Just saying.
My story is not quite that good, but I have a pretty good choir story from high school.
Lay it on us.
There were only 2 concerts. And so you could not miss the choir concert because you would fail the course if you missed the choir concert.
Yeah.
At the Christmas choir concert, I had the flu. I had a temperature of 103. but I could not miss the choir concert. So I went anyway.
Oh no.
And the funniest part for me was I was shivering because I was so cold.
Mhm.
But when we went out on stage and we were under those bright lights, I was like, oh, this feels so good. And everybody else is, oh, we're dying. And I was, turn the lights up, please.
Granny was like, hallelujah.
I grew up in Wisconsin and I was always cold in the wintertime. I used to waitress at a truck stop when I was a teenager. When I would get cold, I would go stick my hands in the grill.
Like, what is this lady doing? Don't worry about it.
Just warming my hands.
Right. I did that when I was around the lakefront. Me and my girlfriend was walking, and it was so cold outside because we got fooled into thinking it was warmer than when it really was because the sun was shining. But we should know better because we are living and from Chicago. Chicago lies all the time when it comes to what's going on outside.
Yep.
You're right. Talk about a jilted lover, Chicago. Anywho. And so we were walking and we just came back from the lakefront and we were about to make our, turn around the bend before we were almost done. And there were a bunch of people outside that had like fire pits going on, in different sections of the park area where we were. And all of a sudden I was so cold. I just walked up to these complete strangers and I was just like, hi. And they were like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm so sorry, guys, but I'm really cold right now. And your fire looks quite inviting. I know you don't know me, but it's okay. I'm not gonna rob you. But they were really nice about it. They said, oh no, it's okay. And then this other guy was starting to tell a story about how they were at a wedding and made out with their father's accountant. I was just like, wow. I guess these are rich people stories. I don't know nothing about that. So
I want to ask Victoria a question.
Oh yeah.
Why would they have fired her for a marriage?
I was wondering that too. Maybe they were gay and gay marriage was illegal.
Oh, probably.
I hadn't even thought of that. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Gay marriage is just so completely normalized to me. Oh, really?
I mean, like when it happened, some people were
Victoria
upset.
says 1998.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then good for her.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, like, I don't know why people would still like rally against that. I remember when did I think that when same-sex marriage was ratified at the Supreme Court level was in 2000, what, 9, 10, something like that? 2015, thank you.
Wow.
And you have people that was legitimately upset. I'm like, why? I'm like, okay.
The Christians were just convinced that was going to ruin heterosexual marriage. Everyone's going to get divorced and go marry. Everyone's going to turn gay and go marry someone.
Newsflash, guess what? The marriage rate and the divorce rate has not changed since that law have come into place. It's still 50-50. So no, it doesn't. That won't change a damn thing.
It was no big sweat off their back. They got to just transfer all that hate to the trans people. So
yep,
they're still okay.
And now they're trying to bring it back to women too.
Yeah.
I just want to quote a prolific philosopher, Rodney King, who said in 1991, "Can't we all just get along?"
Dave M. points out he's right. They're still upset about gay marriage.
Yeah, which is insane. That's insane to me. I mean, like, I think I forgot what there was one comedian that said, "Why are you having issues with gay marriage?" if gay people want to have the same exposure to being miserable for the rest of their lives with their partners, let them. Like, everybody has a right to be miserable with who they are with. It don't matter. And I said, touche.
I was so happy when that news came across. I knew it was being deliberated at that time, and I was paying attention to stuff. But when that day actually came, that the word was passed, and it was just, oh my God, it was so wonderful. There's so much hope for the future after that. And it's now been just dragged down to the toilet.
My whole motto for humanity is just let people be. Let them be who they want to be. Let them be with who they want to be with. Let them identify the way that they want to identify. We don't need your input on how people want to live their lives. As long if they're not hurting anybody and the people that they're there with are consensual, that's all that matters. So leave it alone.
And Teresa said, look what's happened since gay marriage. The wildfires, COVID, Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's the end of the world as we know it.
Ivermectin.
Taryn, there's a lot of people who aren't joking, who do say things like that and are not joking. That do it. Well, I'm lecturing to the choir. You know that these people do blame the California fires on gays and the transsexuals and
really?
Oh yeah, of course they do.
Because some of them will say that, well, you have like a high population of gay and trans people that's in California.
So God is sending
wildfires to show how God is displeased with people's behavior.
Well, he's not sending fires. He's tripping off those Jewish space lasers. That's what's
tripping off the Jewish space lasers to point towards the fires, to point towards the forest to set them on fire. God is doing that because God is displeased. And I'm like, well, God is doing all that. Why are you worshiping this entity? Because he sounds like a dick. Purposely uses satellites to set shit on fire. What? Who does that?
Who does that? People who can't understand the difference between reality and fantasy and think that what they see in Star Wars really happens.
Oh, I was thinking that they were trying to like reinvent a Dr. Evil plot from Austin Powers. I'm like, really? I'm going to use lasers in California because God is displeased with this behavior.
They know that lasers are Jewish because they had their antennas circumcised.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I got into an argument on Twitter with someone over that topic, and he was trying to tell me that you can't, sodomy is wrong because that's the shithole, and you can't use that for sex. And I said, well, is it okay for heterosexual sex? And he said, well, heterosexual people don't do that.
The fuck they don't.
You ever heard of
do we need to have the talk?
Get that person. I'll show him some shit. I'll show you some shit.
Just don't argue with them. Just tell them, look, you give yourself an enema, like 2 enemas in the morning, and do that every day. You'll be nice and clean, and it'll be perfectly fine to do it.
That's what they call a douche.
And then they want to know why you know all that information.
It's okay. Yeah. You said Jenny. Purple said Jenny beat me to it.
Well, we are coming up on our 1.5 hour mark, and I do want to leave a little bit of time to let people shill for anything that they would like to shill for and plug anything they would like to plug. And Cynthia, I'll let you go first. What have you got coming up, or is there anyone else that you would like to promote?
Promoting. Okay, like guys, if you have not subscribed to the nonprofits, I need you to do that because we are so close to 10,000 subscribers. Like super, super close. Last time I checked, we were like 9.76 thousand subscribers. So, you know, we're hoping, well, at least I'm hoping, but I had this conversation with with, you know, my with the producers and the other hosts that, you know, we're really hoping to get to 10,000 by Sunday. That would be absolutely awesome. So if you haven't subscribed to the nonprofits, please do so. I love that show. And I love that we can, you know, research and have conversations and, you know, still be, you know, to utilize like some intelligence and be irreverent at the same time. At least I know I do. So please subscribe. If you didn't get a chance to check out the video that I did with Apologia, which is a part of his Evolution Exposed series, where we are, and this one is called No Lives Matter. We're taking down Mark Spence from Living Waters, and you know he's also like a contributor for Answers in Genesis. Shout out to Granny for actually exposing me to Answers in Genesis. I can never go back. I feel like I was like, wow, this exists. Oh my gosh. And when I saw like Mark Spence was like affiliated with them, I was just like, oh, this is gonna be some shit. Let's do it, right? But yeah, it was no, it was a cool project to do Apologia. It was kind of like weird to see myself as a cartoon, but yeah, it was weird, but still it was great to do. But yeah, check that video out. I actually is like I think like one of my most favorite videos that I've ever done, and I have a lot. So I mean, like some of the stuff that I did with Granny. I love the video that we did together when I first was exposed to Answers in Genesis. But I do, but that was my favorite, and I think it was because it was the, you know, the cartoon. Also I do write a blog, so called freedomandhealthandwellness.com. That's when I'm talking about the social determinants of health that affect Black folks who descend from chattel slavery in America. I've done a wide variety of articles concerning COVID in the Black community. I talked about freedom in history. I talked about politics, and also I talk about other portions of health and wellness, including my own journey for weight loss. So check that out. I want more subscribers, so subscribe to that. Actually, I think I have I don't know if it's in the show notes, but I do have a link tree, which is at Cam Glamming, so CAMGLAMMING, and actually on my link tree does have a playlist of all the YouTube appearances that I have done, including, you know, all the ones that I was talking about. So, and a link to the nonprofits. But yes, I do believe that somebody already put it up. Thank you, Doctor. Yes, that is correct.
And the link to your link tree is in the description of this video. So if you want to see anything in Cynthia's link tree, just go down to the description below, and the link tree is there.
Right. So all things Cynthia. That's it.
Very good. Jenny, is there anything that you'd like to plug or show for?
Well, let's see. Tomorrow night, this Thursday, and I guess I'm going to be on the usual Purple's. I'm having so much trouble brain fog. Midnight chats Mid America.
Okay.
Except it's going to be on at 10 instead of midnight right now for a period. And come watch, if you've ever watched the Purple Show, it's worth it. It's just a bunch of us hanging out and shooting shit, but sometimes it can get really heavy and amazingly informative. And then other than that, I just guess I'm shilling the opportunity to still be alive. And if I get real touchy-feely, huggy-kissy over the next few days, it's just how you feel when you realize you're not going to die. and
And we
I
are
love
so
you
happy
all.
that you are feeling better.
And
Yes.
well, I'm not 100%, but I'm sure a lot better off. It's become tolerable. If I can be sick like this for another week, that's fine. I could deal with it.
Well, we're just glad you're in the land of the living. That's all that matters.
Yeah,
And I'm
Mhm.
glad that you are on the mend, Jenny.
it's
Yes.
just going to be real boring in this goddamn ugly apartment of mine for a week, for 10 days. So
Find lots of things to binge.
yeah, that I can do. That I can do.
Cool.
I have a sewing machine I got to set up and get going on.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
nice.
Yeah, I bought this beautiful material. Well, no, we won't go into that. But anyways,
I wish I could sew.
I wish I could too.
Well,
I'm just learning.
I tried to get my mom to teach me, but she doesn't have patience. So I'm sewing illiterate, even though my mom is like an amazing seamstress.
Have you ever watched any of the sewing videos on YouTube?
Yeah, but they have those AMSR voices, and so they make me go.
Oh,
I
wow.
get like stupid relaxed. Same thing that happens to me when I watch Fred Rogers.
Are you of the age group that you grew up with Fred Rogers?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
We all are.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Well, he was on when I was a child. Didn't he
Oh.
start in like 65?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He just wasn't
He
showing
started when it was still
in
like
my
black and white.
television market. He just wasn't in my market, so.
Ah,
Okay.
okay. Yeah, I grew up on the south side of Milwaukee. We had a pretty strong we had 4 TV channels.
Well, now wait a minute. That's where I grew up.
How did you not watch Fred Rogers?
It was on the PBS station.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, sure.
It was on Channel
WNBS.
18.
Yeah.
Channel 18. No.
18
No.
was the PBS station.
No, it wasn't. Channel 10 was. They had 10 and 36. Still do.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. We had Channel 11 and Channel 20. Those were our PBS stations. And Channel 11 was WTTW, Chicago, your window to the world. Do, do, do,
Window
do.
to the world. Yeah, I remember that.
Love Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. So good. So good.
Okay, so what I have coming up is I've got a video being released in a couple of days about how I created the pizza god. And then next week, I will have Dr. Ben, student Dr. Ben, on, and we are going to be talking about, I'm trying to remember her name. It was the woman in Oklahoma that got arrested who got sentenced to 4 years in jail for having a miscarriage.
What?
Yeah, I wanted to discuss the chilling effects on pregnant women. That's what I was alluding to when I mentioned earlier about how, the laws are really ganging up on women. But she had a miscarriage. She had taken methamphetamine. She went for medical treatment after her miscarriage, and when she admitted to having meth, they did testing on the fetal remains, and they did not conclude that the meth was the cause of death. They said it was inconclusive. But despite it being inconclusive and there being no evidence of any crime having been committed, she was still convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 4 years in jail for having a miscarriage.
Her name is Brittany Pooloff.
Thank you. I kept going poo
I have got to
something.
ask.
Yeah, Brittany Pooloff.
I'm making this assumption in my head. She's black. Yes.
No, she's an indigenous.
Well, that's just as bad to them.
Yeah, she was sentenced to 4 years in a state prison by the Comanche County Courthouse this month for a miscarriage that she suffered last year.
Oh God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's horrible.
She was in jail for a year awaiting trial before she got sentenced.
And meanwhile, there's 700 missing or dead indigenous women in Wyoming that nobody talks about or cares about her. And the 7,000 in Canada, and well, never mind.
Yeah, that's a horrible. For some reason, being like an indigenous person or a black person and you just disappeared, that don't get on the news. That doesn't get on the news. There's a lot of young Black girls that are missing as well, all over, that never make it to the news. And some of them, and there has been evidence of some of them disappearing and like in getting put into like doing sex work and being sexually sex trafficked. But no one wants to talk about it because, well,
It's truth.
Yeah, well, I was about to say because we don't know who Jim Crow is. We still can't figure him out.
Oh God. It's so I'm so glad that I'm. Oh no, I want to avoid using cliche words. I'm just so glad that I'm socially / politically aware. And it's just tragic to me that I live in a country where so many people pride themselves in their ignorance of current history and current social trends and have filled themselves with hate. It's just, how can this be?
Lack of critical thinking, and we are still very much so married to our biases. That comes with really bad collectivism.
Which is why, bringing us full circle back to our topic again, we need to continue having conversations with these people, try to educate, and try to get people to look at new opinions and consider new ideas. And with that, thank you so much for coming, Cynthia, and thank you, Jenny, for coming in and filling in at the last minute.
I'm glad to.
And thank you to everyone in the chat for coming and joining us and bringing wonderful questions and wonderful points to discuss. And live your life. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.